Hey everyone, welcome back to Citywide Bites. I'm your host, Max Bowen. Back in April, I heard the single Take to the Streets by singer songwriter DB Stewart. It had me hooked on his music, and for this episode, we're going to talk all about that track, the story behind it, plus his new single, Love is Funny, and the role of artists when it comes to speaking on current events and politics. Enjoy! Well, DB, first off, I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I have been a huge fan ever since listening to your more recent single, "Take to the Streets." Powerful song, very powerful. But there's a lot more to talk about, so let us dive right into it, sir.
Oh, thanks so much, Max. Appreciate you having me, and we're very grateful for the time. And I'm glad you like Take to the Streets.
Uh, but like I said, a lot more. You actually more recently released your new single, "Love Is Funny," which you're
hmm
also on tour for, which we'll talk about later. But I'd like to know what the story is behind the new single.
Yeah, so Love is Funny is really about kind of the cyclical nature of love, but also just kind of how strange it is. It was a song that I had the riff for quite some time, was trying to figure it out. And I recently got engaged back in February, and leading up to it, I was just doing a lot of reflecting of where I was in my life and what I wanted, And so part of it was just a trip through memory lane of recognizing like each relationship has been a stepping stone to who I am as an individual, but also how this relationship flourished. And so it was kind of about going back through time, if you will, and just evaluating a bunch of different milestones along the way, and really looking at it through the lens of what it means when you've had that heartbreak and kind of almost like reassuring oneself that you're going to get through it. Because what I had experienced was I was in a really long-term relationship actually leading up into COVID, and that ended. And I know at that time it felt like, oh, this is never going to happen again. And fighting with that, and which wasn't fair to people in subsequent relationships, or just dating, I guess I would say. So it was kind of, I wanted to explore that and go, wow, I want to kind of look at this more fondly now in kind of a more nostalgic way, and write this letter to self of like reassuring like, hey, you think this is over. Yeah, but the funny thing about this love is it's going to come around when you're least expecting it. You're not going to be ready. You're going to be kind of rebuilt as a person. And that's what I wanted it to go through. And so my fiance is actually featured on that song now. I thought that was a nice way to cap it off. Was she actually really encouraged me. This is like a new studio desk that I built because of her, actually. So, and that plays into this as well, which was I used to have these dilapidated desks, one for like day job work, one for music, neither of them servicing their function very well. Short version, she was like, hey, you gotta, like, you're in here all day, every day. You gotta do this. And so to her credit, I ended up investing in like an actual studio desk and some gear. And she spent like 2.5 days with me building it. And then with that, she became actually the first person to record vocals on it. So the vocals on Love is Funny is my fiance singing. And I felt that really rounded it out because for a while, I loved this song. And my vocal coach actually and I worked on it a lot and revamped it. It used to just all be lower register. There was no high chorus, all this kind of stuff. But anywho, that was kind of the overarching story of both the creation process as well as the production to a degree.
Okay, so this is a famous Grace Metzger, right?
Yes, yes, it
Yes,
is. Oh,
I
she's gonna love
I
that.
was reading just the story on your Facebook. I was like, this person sounds like really amazing. And seeing the pictures, I was kind of thinking, I wonder. And so
Yep,
now I
yep.
know.
It was
Well,
Grace. Yes, indeed.
congratulations first off.
Thank
Amazing
you.
news. That's so cool. So had the two of you ever worked together before on a song prior to this?
Yeah, very, very briefly, not to this degree. The only other one is the song On a Mission.
Hmm.
There's like gang vocals in the chorus, and the gang is really just me and Grace, which was funny. So that was actually the first single I released this year. It was kind of the departure of more songwriter stuff into some heavier leanings, I guess I would say, relative to maybe what people were expecting from DB Stewart. But yeah, so she actually recorded, I think it was, I think there's 16 backing tracks between the two of us, and she's eight of them. One is her doing like a Cher impression because we were like, we need this to sound like it's a whole gang of people. So we really went off the rails and had a really good time just recording as many unique voices as we could to make it sound like this massive chorus. So, but yeah, that there was no like songwriting, I guess, component to that. That was really me saying, hey, I need eight voices. Can you come on in here? Which was a blast. And this was certainly more, hey, we're crafting this song, and it had been rewritten and recorded like three or four times. And then the final hour, yeah, she came in. We sat down. I think it ended up being two different sessions.
Mhm.
One for the primary choruses and backing vocals, and actually recut the final chorus, and then we did a second session in here. I'm making it sound like some big thing that we had to trek to. We had to walk downstairs to get to said sessions, but but yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. All right. But I want to also talk about the other team members because this had a lot of folks involved.
Mhm.
Give us a quick shout out to the other people and kind of what they did for the song.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I got to give a huge shout out to Cross Stitch, who is or Aaron Karstensen, who's the producer on this. He's been my producer since 2017. At the time, I was in another band with my brother and Andrew Gemko, who's actually opening for us tonight in Tacoma. But we were in a group, and so DB Stewart started as a side project. Actually, as I was like, I'm going to get more some of my experimental songwriting side out, and Aaron's been a critical part of that. He does like trap metal, so it's so funny. We're kind of this funny pairing around town of when people see us. I think of myself as like cosmic blues, but whenever we go into the trap metal scene, I'm the quote unquote country guy. So everyone's like, "Oh, that's Aaron's country guy." And then of course with my folks like, "Oh, that's like that's the screamy guy, the screamy boy." But yeah, we've been, I mean, just like really grinding it out together for the better part of 10 years now, which is just wild to think about. And then my brother Jared is actually on drums. And so the live backing band, this is actually the most band-oriented song that I've put out, since um, starting this project. So what's awesome about that is my little brother's on drums, Jared Bayerjan. On bass is Greg Olson, who's been playing with us for about 2, 3 years now. And then I did all the guitar work and vocals, but Jesse Galloway, who plays guitar for us live, was the drum engineer. We actually recorded at Robert Lang Studio, so that was really, really cool. Legendary studio here in Seattle. I mean, like Soundgarden, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, like everyone that I absolutely loved growing up. And so Jesse got us in there, engineered it, did a phenomenal job, and really grateful to Bob for allowing us to take that time to create in there. Um, and oh gosh, there's so many people. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anyone. On the art side, well, I should say mastering Levi Sites. I've been having everything go through him for almost 10 years now too. Just phenomenal. He recently did like some of like the Olivia Rodrigo vinyls, and I think he's done like Metallica vinyl. Like he's the best. Um, and Darren Varel, who has become a very, very dear collaborator. He's at this point probably done a majority of my album art, a mix between digital for like this one, as well as he like Gin and Time that I put out a few years ago. He staged like whole sets and did photography of. We've done some music videos together, but we've been collaborating on a lot of stuff. So for this tour, he did like the stage backdrop too, that we have for, like the video projectors. He did that album art, which we collaborated on, the tour art, like everything you see with like the owls as well as the Love Is Funny cover was him. And we got some really cool stuff we're collaborating on. I won't jump the gun too much because I know you asked about this project here, but we have a project that is almost like a concept record where we're even starting with some of the visuals from the beginning as the album's being crafted. And I'm really, really excited about that as well.
Ooh, I
So
like that.
he's awesome. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I actually also going to just agree with you about Darren. Like when I saw the art for this, I thought, "Oh, this is amazing stuff." So extremely talented group, and I mean, group entirely. I mean, you have a great group here,
No, thank you.
um, and and some of these folks you mentioned that they also perform with you too.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah. Yeah, so the backing band, so my brother Jared, Jesse on guitar, Greg on bass, and then our show tonight we've got Alex Madison on guitar, who Jesse is really some of the glue here of well, I guess me, Greg, Jared have run together for a while, but when Jesse joined, he's also just introduced so many phenomenal musicians into our world that we've got some joining for us tonight as well. So like Luke Sorensen on bass, who is touring with a bunch of different people this year. But yeah, really really talented crew. And then yeah, and someone I got to give a shout out to is Marina Boychuk. She's been doing live photography for us for a long time and does it for a lot of larger touring bands. And so very grateful anytime she comes out for us. But she's phenomenal. Um, yeah, and highly recommend to anybody out there. So yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so let us talk about the tour. As you mentioned,
Mhm.
I've got a show happening just now as we're recording, just a little bit, and then your next show is going to be on the 19th of September at Kelly's Olympian, 7 p.m. in Portland, Oregon. It's funny because I've been to Portland a few times. I don't think I've been to Kelly's yet, and I'm thinking that I probably should have made the trip out there. But how has the tour been going for you?
It's been good. Yeah, it's I was honored that we got to kick it off opening for Buffalo Jones. So they're a Spokane band that we played with on our tour last summer on our Follow the Stars tour. And they're just great guys. So it's amazing to be able to, rekindle friendships or music friendships on the road. So it's been really great. And then the middle part, Grace and I just got a van and I did some acoustic runs. So we went to Boise, tried out van life, basically to not subject the band to it before we figure out some things, trying to figure out the camper situation of like, how could we bootstrap this tour instead of, hotels, Airbnbs, all that stuff when you don't have somewhere to stay, could we camp? Could we, RV park it? Like what are all the options? And so it's been cool because it's been a great learning experience. It's more or less become like a weekend warrior tour, which honestly has been awesome. Just to balance all the, work life stuff that folks have had going on. But it's been really cool. The show's been awesome. I'm really excited for tonight in Tacoma. We haven't been back since we played the Summer Blast Festival a few years ago. And you mentioned
Cool.
Portland. That's been like a home away from home for us. So I'm very excited about Kelly's Olympian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any venues that are just like old favorites for you?
Old favorites. Oh, well, we just played Sunset, which I do love. It's one of my favorite rooms in Seattle. They renovated it. It might have been during the pandemic, but just it's been around it's been a staple of Seattle ever since I, got into music. And it just sounds amazing. And what's lovely about it too is I think it's a 250 cap, but it's one of the shape of it. It can feel packed on you go to a Wednesday show and there's 30 people there, and if they're moving and dancing, it feels packed. But it's got this beautiful woodwork on the wall when they revamped it. It's like literally a sunset. It's just a gorgeous venue. It has some of the best sound. Um, yeah, I've really loved playing there. And Tractor Tavern in Seattle is just a classic. And it's for the larger ones, of course, like Paramount in Seattle. I mean, that's like the dream. It's just beautiful. But I'd say those are my top three.
I love that. Also, Tractor Tavern, great venue name. That's a
Yes.
really good venue name. I love that one.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Now, I also want to talk about Take to the Streets. This is your
Mm.
April release, and this is actually what first got me like hooked on your music. But this is, from what I read, kind of a first for you because this is very much like a politically charged call to action kind of song. What
Mm.
inspired this, and what led you to say, you know what, I want to try this kind of music?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I went on tour in Europe in 2024 and it was solo. And so it had literally been so this would have been mid-June 2024. And and I was in Germany at the time, and I'd actually just wrapped the tour, so I had a couple dates out there, and then I had like 3 4 days in Berlin to just hang out, decompress before a long trek home. And so I had just gone to the Stasi Museum in Berlin, and it was a heavy experience, and just walking through the history and it was there was a lot of stuff about, of course, Hitler's rise to power, what happened, what moves were made by the Nazi Party to come to power in a legitimate fashion. And part of it was effectively what was absolute power given over to the leadership. And I went on a Monday, I believe, and then that same day or the next day, the Supreme Court ruled that, an official action by the president cannot be prosecuted if it's official. And the parallels were shocking to me. And so I started writing it there. I was doing demos like in my Berlin hotel room, and there was a bunch of stuff. And so I immediately had this concept record that started coming to fruition. I had like 3 days. And so I'd started writing, and actually at the same time, or around the same time, or a little bit later that year, a buddy of mine from grad school, from Berkeley, had reached out about a collaboration. There was a band in Spokane, and so one of his buddies, and so we started kind of writing together. The short version is that we ended up agreeing, like, hey, we kind of want to go different directions with this song. But I was really passionate about particularly the lyrics and the top line that I'd done. And we agreed, like, okay, we're gonna go our separate ways. And I was like, can I keep this? There's something I really want to follow here. Like, I really want to say this. I don't want to table this song. And they were like, yep, sure, go for it. And so I sat down with Aaron, my producer, and he's like, hey, now this isn't a collab anymore. We need to make it you. And at the same time, I was like, I feel like it needs a bit more of an edge. This isn't going to be, an acoustic strumming along sort of thing. I've always loved heavier music, and my prior band was a bit more hard rock slash leading into like I don't want to say pop punk, but it was more where like hard rock sits if it was like Green Day meets AC/DC sort of thing. And so I'd always loved that stuff. My brother was on drums for that band as well. And for Take to the Streets, it was really about a call to action. And so much of DB Stewart had also been introspective. Like when I started this project, it was all about reflection of self, journey with mental health, broken relationships, in all these processes. And so I was nervous about the song too, though, because with the collab, at least when I was doing, it was like, great, I can put some politically charged out song that's a lot heavier with this other band, and then I kind of had to reconcile what it meant for me as the solo artist, DB Stewart. Um, and and part of that was okay when designing the song. I was like, it's got to be heavier. Like I already knew I wanted the Guns N' Roses type like intro, and there was bits that I just already loved. And also sitting with Aaron was like, okay, but what does this sound like? What's this heavier version of DB Stewart sound like? What am I truly all about? Well, all these songs have begun on the couch with an acoustic guitar. There's got to be that grounding element, and so that's where the kind of the verses came from. Is when I was reshaping the song. That there. But then as far as the song itself, it was, yeah, hey, everything has been introspective and about self-reconstruction. But what does that mean in this context where there is a politically charged, where I'm saying, hey, I want people to be aware of what's going on. I want people to be active within their communities. And then it really became an exercise in the rewriting process of being like, oh, self-reconstruction also extends to your community. Like it is not or it is actually a selfless thing to do to be talking about what impacts communities and not just what impacts yourself. So the song also wrestles with that because it's also a feeling of like powerlessness of here's these gigantic systems and parties with hundreds of millions or billions of dollars that are operating in a way that don't align with my value and really most people's values. And so that it was, about and the meaning kept changing and it wasn't on purpose. I was sitting on the song trying to craft it and I kept worrying like, oh no, is this song going to be out of date by the time it comes out? I was like writing this in 2024. As you know, this came out, April 2026. And unfortunately, I don't love that it kept being relevant, but then something would
Yeah,
happen a couple months
more
later,
so, I
and then
think, actually.
yeah, it was, there was the genocide in Gaza, and then there was we bombed a school in
Yeah,
Iran, and then all these
yeah,
things, and then we've got like stuff happening in our own streets with like the ICE raids, and I was like, oh, it was one of those where I was like, this wasn't supposed to keep being
right.
relevant, and so
Like,
even some of the lyrics
let
took on new meaning as it
yeah.
wrote. Yeah.
it's like you look back to like what's happening in 24, I think, okay, well, this is really bad, obviously, but maybe this is the peak. And then you think, fast forward, like, oh, it got worse.
Hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And that was part of what made it, I hate to say the word okay to release because nothing was okay about what was going on. But when it
Hmm.
came time to release, I guess I would say was A, it was buying us time in the production process because I was like, and also it should never be about the commercial viability. You know, it was like this was
Hmm.
something that was just heavy on my heart in 2024. And we actually went into the studio for Robert Lang. Those drums were recorded there in December on December 1st. So it was one of those where like, the songwriting process kept evolving and it was about can we do this right? And fortunately, and I was so nervous to put it out too, because I was like, people that found me for like Catch 22 or Heaven's
Hmm.
Door, like
Hmm.
much more like written with more pop sensibility than heavy guitars and a death metal scream at the end,
Yeah.
so I was like, I don't know if anyone will like this. And what was on my heart was like, I'm going to put this out. I'm going to play it. And if people hate it live, then we'll just pull back and won't do it, even though I love playing it. And so I was really hoping that that energy would come through. And fortunately, I mean, it was the first time I got hate mail. Like I woke up the next morning that I put it out, which actually took away all my fear of it. I was so nervous to put it out and for like my own fans to be like, this is dumb. Why would you do this? And I just had DMs and negative comments left and right, and I just started laughing. I was with Grace, and I was like, "This is, I mean, this truly was the worst that could happen." I say that in quotes. And I was like,
Hmm.
that's it. I upset some people. And if people are mad that I'm saying that, innocent people shouldn't be dying at the hands of governments, then I don't know that there's much of a conversation to be had,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But anyways, a very verbose answer to your question. I get excited about that one. So,
No,
but
I
yeah,
can
that's kind
tell.
of where we're
I
at.
can tell that this song has really like meant a lot to you. And it's yeah, I mean, as you said, still very relevant today, isn't really going away, unfortunately. But I want
Mhm.
to ask about artists ar- artists getting political and speaking out on current events or current issues. What do you
Mhm.
think is their role in that overall conversation? Should they be
Mm.
be free to speak out, or should they say, you know what, I'll keep it to what I've been doing so far and just sort of stay out of the politics?
That's a great question. And I feel like my answer probably keeps evolving. I know that for me, I think it's important I think it probably depends on who you are as an artist and as an individual, because I recognize that not everyone wants to be subjected to just debate. Some people are like, hey, I'm for escapism, and what I'm trying to deliver to people is an escape together. And for better or for worse, some people just are not informed. And I think the biggest thing for me is just whichever way you're going to go, be informed. So like, don't be speaking up on stuff if you don't. I do feel like everyone has a voice, obviously, and has the right to speak up. But for me, I'm just like, I just want to be informed, and that's, I guess, my personal perspective on whether or not someone should speak up. Is like instead of just firing from the hip, do read the news, read some history,
Hmm.
see what the impact is rather than just try to be incendiary, which I feel like happens probably far too often. And so whether or not someone does, I'm like, everyone's got the right to, I would just say my opinion is that they got to be informed. And when bringing it into art, it's interesting. For me, I got a good response from it, but I also did lose, like, at my scale, followers. People were obviously, some people were upset with my perspective, and what I had to reconcile with myself even before I put it out. That was the big question, was actually just what you asked me, was asking myself, like, like, what is my role here? Am I just taking up oxygen for no reason? Is this for self? Is this for community? Is it for both? And I think that changes. I think the creation process certainly is for self, and then releasing is, for, there's some hubris there clearly because I wanted to put it out and for other people to hear it.
Hmm.
So I have to recognize that it wasn't strictly for self because but it was something I wanted to say and wanted to share. For me personally, I loved political stuff growing up. Like the record that shaped me, I think I was like fourth or fifth grade, but like Green Day's American Idiot was like on repeat. And for me, I was like, that had something to say and a perspective, and it's something on a personal level I always appreciated with artists. And then they proceed, but it's the same people that put out Dookie, so like you can have that, and you can have an American Idiot and a 21st Century Breakdown, or you can be a Rage Against the Machine and just be all in all the time. And those folks are like super informed, on the rage
Hmm.
side, like literally masters in political science, sort of thing. So, I don't know if I properly answered your question, but I think for me, it's just like it comes down to the individual, I think, on whether or not to be involved. Now, there's some things that's just right and wrong, and I think you should stand up for what's right and wrong. But as far as entering the political spectrum, I get that in a public setting, that's not for everybody.
Hmm.
But yeah, for me, I was like, you know what? This is like a whole part. I mean, it felt like the release of Take to the Streets felt like DB Stewart actually did fully round itself out, because I was in those bands that were more outspoken, albeit probably less informed at the time, at 16 years old when we started. But in many ways, it was like, oh, this finally encompasses like everything I'm about. I've had these introspective pieces, which I will still continue to have in droves. But also there was like a part of me I felt like that I wasn't showing people, and part of that was fear for a long time. That's probably a big theme in my music. Is honestly all my biggest songs have been ones that I was really fearful to put out and sat on for at least a year, if not two, post completion.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Oh, come on. 16, you know everything, right? I mean, you know
I
how
thought
apparently how
so.
the world
I
works, right?
did think so.
You certainly do. All right. Well, DB, this has been a really fun conversation. But as we wrap things up, the people are definitely going to want to know what's next for you.
Yeah, so we're rounding out this tour. That's the biggest thing. It's running through October 8th, and that's the primary focus. I am working on a number of records, and my goal is I miss album days. I know we were actually chatting before about this of, vinyls and all these things, and there's two different projects that I'm working on. I guess to tease a little bit, the Cosmic Blues thing is the heart and soul of all of this, and I've got kind of actually a concept record there, and then there's a more take to the streets oriented concept record that I'm working on. That's the one I'm project I mentioned before with Darren. That's got like a visual component to it. Um, and so the fall is going to be a fall and winter post tour. There's gonna be a lot of heads down grinding on that stuff. And then I'm also trying to work out, we're currently scoping 2027 touring as well. So my hopes to be back on the road early next year. I can't commit to anything. It's still all early, but yeah, the goal is to be hitting the road more and more frequently, and have even more music next year. So,
I cannot wait. I
oh,
cannot wait at all.
that's very
Well,
kind of you.
folks, we have told you the story. Now, here's what you do. You go to dbstewart.com. Everything is there. Check out Love is Funny. Check out Take to the Streets. And let us know what you think. Be honest. Don't hold anything back because we always want to know. And DB, certainly I'm looking forward to the next time you and I talk.
Likewise, Max. Thank you so much for having me.
And that brings this episode to a close. I really hope you enjoyed the episode and picked up a few things along the way. If you want to support the show, please like this episode and share as much as you can. If you want to check out other kinds of episodes, you can find that right here. And to subscribe, it's right there. This has been Citywide Bites, and I'll see you all next time.